I'm Jeff Small. Welcome to this edition of City Matters. We're joined today by Councilman for Ward 1 for the City of Ferguson, Mark Byrne. Mark, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Talk a little bit about a person like you, successful career. Why did you even want to run for the council?
Well, it was pretty easy in Ferguson. 2011, so it's been about 5 years now. We had a lot of things going on in the city that made Ferguson the community of choice for me and for my family. And with everything that was going on, we just found that Ferguson was the place for us to stay, to raise that family, to get to know our neighbors, to see things that you don't see in other communities. We live on a block that's you have residents that have been there for 40 years and residents that have been there for just months. It's very diverse, young, a little older, white, African American, and just an awful lot of positive things that I saw in the community in 2011. And I thought, with my skill set as an attorney, that maybe I could bring something to the city that could help us advance that positive spirit.
And I could not imagine what that shift is like once the unrest and the challenges that we faced over the last year happen. Your job all of a sudden takes on a whole new importance and difficulty. What is that like, and why wouldn't a person like you just say, you know what, I'm going to give this to someone else? Why'd you stay?
I stay for the very people that I am honored to represent. What happened in our city was a tragedy. It was a difficulty. There's a young man that lost his life way too early, and there was a community that came together to send the message to all of us, not just in Ferguson, not just in the St. Louis area, but all the way around the world, that things need to change. We need to find ways to have police and youth interact better. We need to find ways to solve the racial differences that come between us as just as citizens and as people. You know, it was a difficult time. It still remains a difficult time. But for those of us that wanted to lead and wanted to be part of change, I wouldn't have asked to be in a better position. I have an opportunity right now to work on something that can be very positive and can be very good going forward if we do this in the right way.
I think one thing is that, you know, and I've heard it said that people would say if it was just a problem, or if many of these conditions were just in Ferguson, nobody around the world would care. But in fact, people do care, and people are focusing on other things. Do you think that is the good out of this, I guess you would say? Or? Well,
I hope that there's going to be an awful lot of good that comes out of it. As we saw from an awful lot of unfortunate instances where young people had bad interactions with police officers. We saw throughout the United States it can happen anywhere. And then we saw in places like Baltimore that the same kind of reaction from the citizens can happen anywhere. And so I hope that not just in Ferguson, I hope that all of us are paying attention. I hope those that came out and protested and did it in a peaceful manner also see what it's like for those that protested in a non-peaceful manner, because there's an awful lot of expense that happens to a city, an awful lot of difficulty on a city or on a state trying to rebuild after those kind of things, you know, violence and destruction is never going to be the answer, but standing up for your rights and everyone else's rights help to motivate those in charge to do the right thing. And so I hope we all learn from that, and I hope we can all move forward in a positive manner throughout this region and throughout the United States.
You and all the other council members have been involved with some difficult conversations, I guess you would say, with folks from all facets of the issues at hand. How important would you say it is for those kind of conversations to be had?
Oh, I think if there was one thing that I could do over again, it would be to have those conversations before August the 9th. I think there are so many positive conversations that are going on, not just with church leaders and community activists and things like that, but neighbor to neighbor. In our little city, when we would go into the supermarket, I found after August 9th that black, white, male, female, young, old, it didn't matter. We all found a little bit better way to just communicate, just to say hi, just to smile, just to enjoy one another as human beings and know that we're all in this together. And I think we saw that in our, in our little town. Those conversations need to be had in any of the cities that surround us, any of the cities in the United States that think that there are not these issues in your community. You're wrong, and we need to. You need to have those conversations before something unfortunate brings them to light. And unfortunately, it shouldn't take the death of a young man to make us have those conversations. But if there is something positive, that is certainly one of the most positive things to come out of that.
As a homeowner, there are a number of folks who have left, some who are afraid to move into the community. Do you understand that still as a difficult challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. It has an awful lot to do with education, with where you see our community, with where you see your own livelihoods, your jobs, the safety of your children. When you factor all those things as parents, you have to make decisions. And I respect the citizens that have decided that it was better for them to be located somewhere else other than Ferguson. But I encourage the citizens that are here to remember what we had before August 9th of 2014. Remember the community that many of us felt that we had. And the only thing that should change is that we need to have that community, that same community feeling being felt by all of the citizens of Ferguson. And that's something that we as leaders need to make sure that that we don't change the positive things that we had going on. We just encourage those that had not felt that same experience or participated in that same experience. We have to find a way to include or to bring that same optimism, that same hope, that same opportunity to those that didn't feel that before that day.
Right, because it seems like in many of the conversations I've heard is that to no fault of anyone's, it's just you thought this is what you did and you thought you saw everything this way, and somebody else saw something entirely different, and we weren't talking.
Absolutely. And I had run for re-election in 2014 and was re-elected by an overwhelming majority. I don't know how many of those citizens were African Americans or who had voted for me, but I can tell you that when people asked me the thing that I loved the most about my community back in 2014, I said the diversity, because we have some wealthier families, we have some of the not so wealthy families. We have African Americans, we have white Americans, all living on the same streets. You don't have that anywhere in the St. Louis area where we do not have a white part of town or a black part of town. We have a diverse community. We always did, even before August 9th. We need to take that and to remember that and to realize that it all happened here. We became that epicenter for racism and all of that, but that doesn't mean that that's what that needs to identify us. Going forward, what needs to identify us is that which brings us together and unites us as a community, because I do think we had a wonderful community before, and I think it's only going to be better as we move forward.
Yeah, I agree too, and I think a number of folks who have stepped up to the plate to help out. I think that's the reason why. I mean, I think people feel motivated and feel encouraged by the changes that they see, because there have been a number of changes.
Yes, yeah, and it's not just the city that needs to change, or the police department that needs to change, or the leadership that needs to change. We can do as many things as we need to try to contact people that are otherwise not involved. We can send emails. We can post, neighborhood meetings. We can do all those things. If people don't choose to get involved and to go to those meetings and to be active in the community and come out and enjoy the concerts we have at 501 or the street fest that we have every year in downtown Ferguson, if people don't choose to get involved, then that also becomes part of the issue. So it's not just change on government and the police department and all that. We need to ask our citizens to also be part of this. The whole community policing model, that's getting police officers to get to know the kids in the community, the youth in the community, and break down those barriers, make sure there's no judgment. That can't happen without the community.
Right. It's got to be a two-way street, I guess.
Yeah, we need the community to be involved. So when we're talking about change, the thing that gives me the most optimism is there are so many groups that are out there that had not formed before August 9th of 2014 that are now involved, active, not just working with government, but working within their churches, within the community, and within even the police department. And I'm excited about our community policing model that we have going. I'm excited about our interim police chief. I think he's got a good program going forward. I just encourage the residents, the community itself, to keep an eye open for change, to help be part of that change.
Great way to go to a break, and we're going to take that break right now. We're back with City Matters.
Okay. I'd like to finish school, but with kids and a job, I can't find the time to go to class. I have a few hours here and there. I would have to drive, park, and try to make it on time. Whoa, that's a lot to ask. If I could find a program that worked around my schedule, I would do it.
Lindenwood Online. Responsive faculty, smooth registration, quality education. We have your answers.
In Ferguson, we're serving up happiness.
In Ferguson, we're serving up hospitality.
In Ferguson, we're serving up peace.
In Ferguson, we're serving up optimism.
In Ferguson, we're serving up change.
Ferguson is our home, and you're always welcome here.
All right, we're back with more of City Matters. Mark, talk a little bit about, I know you and the mayor, all the council members have met journalists from around the world, and many of them come with their impressions of what Ferguson is going to be like. Have you been surprised, or are you usually surprised at what fact versus reality is when people from around the world come to Ferguson?
I guess I would say no. I actually come from a large family. I have 11 brothers and sisters, and lots of aunts and uncles, and they're all over the United States. And when they would talk about Ferguson or call and say, are you okay? How's everything going? The perception of Ferguson outside of Ferguson is entirely different. So when I would meet those reporters or have those conversations, I kind of came to expect it. The nice part about it is that everybody that has come to our city and spent some time in our city, whether it's reporters or even members of the Department of Justice that have come in to participate in all of this, the one thing you hear from them is what a wonderful town you have, what a beautiful town you have. And I think it has been a hidden secret, if you will, but I don't think it's going to be so secret anymore once people come in and they really do see what a nice town we have.
What do you think remains as some of the biggest challenges? Because obviously changes have been made, some things have been done differently, but some significant challenges. What would you?
Well, I think until we get an agreement with the Department of Justice, that always has to be listed as a challenge. As a community itself, we're engaged in and working on a regular basis a lot of those challenges moving forward. So the biggest challenges to us, I think at this point, would be getting a resolution with the Department of Justice, and then I also think the financials. having the number of days, months, weeks of unrest does cause or has created some financial strain on the city. Our budget has changed, and we need to find ways as a city to pay for the services and to pay for what citizens expect the city to be able to bring. So I see moving forward that we need to work towards a resolution with the Department of Justice, and I see going forward we have to find a way to continue to balance our budget. One of the nicest things about Ferguson is that we kind of bucked the trend. We always had a surplus.
Right.
We always had a very nice reserve, and we spent money wisely, and we got a lot for our buck. And we have some of the greatest employees, a staff that you don't have to tell them to be conservative on spending, to try to maximize every dollar. They do that. And so when all of this occurred, we had a very good surplus that allowed us to take the time to do this the right way, to find a balanced budget moving forward that includes a solid community policing component of all of that.
You mentioned the Department of Justice. Let's talk about that a little bit. I know because at many of the council meetings, people have stood up and they want to know what's going on. Why aren't you guys talking about this? And explain how that works. I mean, certainly, as an attorney, that you simply can't, because this is a legal matter.
Yes.
It's not that you're not, that you're withholding information.
Yes. Yeah, it's that fine line. I am 100% in favor of transparency at every step of the way in every part of the process. But there are certain times when you can't be transparent. Those times would end up being when your city has a financial stake, a litigation, situation going on, where you have to do those behind closed doors, and they have to be done to where you're making the decisions, the best decisions you can on behalf of the citizens, and unfortunately, they may not get to know about it at that time. The Department of Justice negotiations are those kind of things. An easy example with those negotiations would be that if we're all in agreement that we want community policing, the Department of Justice has a version of what they would like to see as a community policing project, and we have ours. They're both very good plans.
Sure.
It's just one may cost more than the other plan. And so we're not that far apart on those things, but I don't think that communicating to everybody all the little details will be anything different as far as transparency than communicating the result that we've each been able to reach. As long as both parties are bargaining in good faith, which I do believe we are, then I think the citizens will be happy to know that both sides have tried as hard as they can. And there will come a time and a place for us to communicate, and we will certainly do it. In fact, we've kind of started that process 2 or 3 weeks ago of sharing a little more detail as to what the Department of Justice wants to see and what we want to see and what we can afford and how that looks like in the budget.
The fact that people are even concerned about those things, that people are coming to the meetings and they're asking questions, you could certainly consider that a good thing, I would say.
I think it's great. If we could get all of the people that were showing up after August 9th to share their concerns about those particular issues that were going on then, if we could get those same people to show up and say, I want to be part of the change, I want to be part of the new and the improved Ferguson, I want to be part of the community policing project. It is exciting to me to see people that I had never seen before 2014 coming to meetings on a regular basis and being in the neighborhood meetings. I have 3 new neighborhood groups that have formed since 2014. So I think that makes it 7 in my ward, or that touch my ward. And one of them, for the last 4 years, has had a regular meeting every month of about 50 people. Since this time, all of the neighborhood meetings that are meeting regularly, either every month or every other month, they consistently will have 30, 40, 50 people there. So people are becoming more active, they are becoming more engaged, and I think that's only a positive thing.
And that lends itself back to the kind of the conversations. Now people are talking. And do you attend all of the neighborhood meetings, or how does that work? Like with the police department, or?
Yeah, at every one of the neighborhood meetings, there is generally a police officer who will come in, answer questions about crime, and fill people in on what's going on in their neighborhood. You will generally see either myself in Ward 1, either myself or Ella Jones, the other Ward 1 representative, and it's an opportunity for citizens to share with us their concerns, but then also after the meeting we can talk one-on-one. And I think going forward, if citizens, I've encouraged every one of my neighborhood groups to get together on a Sunday and just have a cookout. Just, you know, you don't have to close the street, but get somebody that's willing to pull their barbecue pit out, put some chairs on the side of the street, and sit down as neighbors and get to know one another, because the more that we can do to break down the barriers, and I don't mean just racial barriers, I just mean barriers. We as people naturally put up barriers. We live in homes that put up barriers. The more that we can get out in the front yard and just have great conversations with one another and get to know each other and get to know the kids. I have shared with people that one of the very nice things that has happened in my neighborhood, I have 5 little ones. I have from 14 down to 2. In my neighborhood, my kids used to be about the only kids in the neighborhood. Now, in the last 6 months, every single Saturday or Sunday, we'll have 12 to 15 kids running around my neighborhood, black, white, 14, all the way down to, like I said, my 2-year-old's out there all the time. That is something exciting and fun to see when you're just a neighbor who, you know, questions how strong our city is. All you got to do is look at our kids. That's the strength of the city. That's the strength of our future.
All right. Mark, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank
and
you.
That will do it for this edition of City Matters. We'll see you next time.